Okay, so I'm surrounded by vacuum cleaners and people who, try to get a breakfast now. Still need to do some recording for the OR mapping lecture. I guess I have to interrupt my my lecture every now and then to say good morning to someone, so don't be confused by that, okay? So it's time for a demonstration. We will demonstrate a application that uses Hibernate. This application is essentially an event management tool. So it involves entities such as persons and email addresses of persons, and most importantly, events in which persons can participate. So there are actions like creating new events, or more interestingly, attaching persons to events because they want to participate. So this slide shows the architecture of the event manager application. So if you get your hands on the code, make sure to have a look at the makefile and the readme file, because these files further detail the architecture and they also help you to get the system running. First thing to point out is the data directory. This is where Hypernet, or say HyperSQL, stores the database files for the persistent objects. Then we have the object model for the event manager application. As you see, these are essentially just two Java classes, one for events, another for persons, and there are corresponding mapping files. We will look at them later. Further, we have what we call actions here. These are the ways how we can operate with the application. Say we can, for example, create and store events, or we can add persons to events, or we can add email addresses to persons. And all these actions are implemented by the manager, the event manager, the main class here. Then we also do have a helper class, which helps us to maintain a connection to Hibernate. And we do have the Hypernet Configuration, which is a file that basically tells Hibernate what database to use and what mapping files to look for. We also do have, as you see here, two kind of backups for this file because we want to run the application in different ways. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so now let's give a simple demo of the event management application. So what we do first is we might just start the database manager. Here we use the HyperSQL database manager. We assume that the HyperSQL database is already up and running. So we pick this database engine here, use the system administrator. Okay, so we connect to the database. At this point, the database is empty. So we will now run the first action against the database. This is a store action. It's essentially it inserts an event. So if you now go back and look at the database, meanwhile the relational schema has been created, and so we have now a few tables here. And also look at the row count. So we really just have created one event. We can actually look at the event. Okay. So now there's one thing we need to do. The Hypernet configuration initially such that the database would be dropped and recreated every time we run the event manager program. So we see this in the current configuration, in the sense that if we go down here, there's something like that data definition language statements would be re-executed every time. So we use a different state of this file where we have commented out that part. So I'm using a makefile target to activate the appropriate configuration. So if we now run store again, we will in fact insert another event. So we see this here if we refresh. Yes, so there are two events, and now we can also execute other actions. Say we add a person, so in return we now have one person, and this person is also added to some event. Well, in fact we get another event, or we could add an email to a person. So if we again update, then we've got some email addresses. So if we now re-execute, for example, this statement, there are multiple events by now. Okay, so that's basically it.